All right, hello everyone. It's Perry from Floof and Feathers here with another live stream drawing. Or if you're watching this later on YouTube, thank you for watching. I hope you get a chance to check out the full comic once you see the video and it's finished. So again, just introducing myself for anyone who might not know, my name's Perry, and I write and illustrate the Floof and Feathers webcomic, which is a series inspired by our real life pets, two dogs and a bird, just kind of based on the various antics that they get up to day and week to week. So I'm just doing what I've been doing more or less regularly once a week with doing some live stream drawings as I finish up the comic for the week and just giving everyone a chance to join along and watch the creative process unfold. So this week, you can see I'm doing something with Olivia. I've been recently playing a lot of Pokemon, just kind of reliving some old childhood nostalgia. It's always fun. So just kind of had this inspiration to draw Olivia as a type of Pokemon character. So you can see just even from the preview outline, I gave her a little bit of a stylized look, exaggerated her eye, her crest feather, things like that, just trying to make her a little more Pokemon anime-esque. Uh, and that'll come through even more once it's drawn and colored fully. But anyway, we'll get into getting things started. So right from the beginning here with just the first panel, you can see I've in the kind of preview outline, I've drawn the Pokeball as being thrown and opening, and I think I'm actually already going to change this. But that's why I like doing these outlines and everything beforehand. That way I give myself time to rethink and restructure and change things, and I don't kind of put myself into a corner of, oh, this is exactly what you have to draw. I can change things if I want. So I am still going to keep the Pokeball here in the first panel, but I think when it's finished, I'm actually going to give it more of a kind of a spinning effect, like it's being thrown. It's not going to be opened just yet. Um, but we will get to that later. And actually, the spinning effect is something that I'm not going to draw until it's actually time to color, and you'll see why when it comes time for that. But for now, all I need is to just have the ball itself drawn. We'll start with that, and then we can do the little spinning effect on it later when the time comes. I think that will look a lot better than what I originally had outlined here. There we go. Then we can go ahead, start drawing Olivia. And actually, I say that, but we're going to actually start with just the little text box down here for the dialogue, just because that's in the foreground. Make things a little bit easier on myself. Just start from the front of the panel and work my way back. I feel like Olivia would make a very good Pokemon in real life, just because she She has a very good instinct for violence and fighting. I feel like she would be great at that. In fact, she might enjoy it a little too much, so it's probably for the best that she isn't. In fact, it's probably better that she hasn't watched me playing any Pokemon games because she would most likely start getting some ideas. We don't need that because she's already she's already way too clever as it is. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. She picks up on things very easily. She's way too clever for her own good. So, yeah, I can only imagine what it would be like if she actually got her hands on a Pokemon game. It would be hilarious, but also probably horrible. Also, just going to do this simple little effect with her eye. Normally, I just draw it as a large black oval, but I'm going to give it that little quarter circle chunk out of the top just to try to make it look a little more like the style we're going for. That's been a lot of fun while I've been working on this comic series as well, is just getting more confidence with drawing things differently and trying out new styles and techniques for how I draw these comics. Because before I had not really done any kind of art at all since I want to say I was like 14 maybe. So getting back into webcomic, or not even just webcomics, just getting back into drawing at all after going so long without doing any kind of art, it was more than a little daunting. It was a lot to take in. So I just kind of played it safe for a while. But now that I've been doing this for a while, it's a lot of fun just trying new things out as I go. Not, yeah, I don't want to always do the same thing over and over. I want to be able to try some of these different styles and do things differently if I can. It keeps it fun and interesting. So there she is. I'll go ahead. So do this little kind of not sunburst, but like the little burst pattern behind her. Start with just a circle. And then I'm just to give myself a shape to base the burst pattern on. That didn't quite work. There. Because I guess it actually doesn't need to go all the way around because it's blocked out by the little text box down there anyway. Go ahead and delete that. Clean that up a little bit. Um, yeah, there we go. Perfect. Just draw the little rectangle here for her HP, and I'll add the text in for all that later at the end, as I usually do. Yeah, it looks like that should be everything there. Then again, we can add another little text box here. There we go, that looks better. That is the difficult part when it comes to the final inking and drawing for the comic each week. Just because when I'm doing the outline, I don't have to worry necessarily about everything being perfect or ultimately close to perfect. It just has to be the general shape of whatever I'm working on. I give myself room to correct things later. But then, of course, when it comes to drawing the final version of whatever I'm doing, it does have to be a little bit more polished and ready because that is going to ultimately be the final version. I do try to get the initial sketches as close to final as possible, but still trying to give myself room to make corrections as necessary. Like here, for example, I have the different text boxes for her attacks to choose from in this battle. You can see underneath from the outline, I just had some rough rectangles drawn, which that's fine. That's placeholder shape. But here I'm drawing the final versions, so I'm turning on the drawing guide for this little these boxes in the background so that I can make sure that I'm drawing consistent, even rectangular shapes. So it looks like something that might actually come out of a well-developed video game and not something that you would see on, the game off of a Flash game on Newgrounds, if anyone remembers that site and some of the weird games that came off of there. I don't know. That's a reference that probably really dates me, but I'm sure someone out there will probably know what I'm talking about. But that's not the look I'm going for with this. So I want it to look like everything here was done intentionally. That's what we're going for, as opposed to the way my comic usually looks. No, I'm just kidding. I'm actually I am very happy with how I've been able to work more on polishing up my art style over the last couple years. If anyone watching this now, again, either on if you're on the live stream or if you're catching this on YouTube later, if you want to have a really good laugh, head back to my website where I host the comic series and just go all the way back and look at some of the very earliest comics that I wrote and illustrated as part of this series. And I mean, in my opinion, you probably would not even be able to tell that they were done by the same person. It is that much of a difference in just a couple of years. That's also just one of those little projects I do here and there. Not as much recently. I need to do it again. Um, Going back and revisiting some of the very first comics in this series and drawing remastered, updated versions of them. Um, this is one of those things I work on. If I don't necessarily have something new for the week, that's something I can always go back and look at an old favorite and just make it look a whole lot nicer than what it did when it first came out. So that's just something to keep an eye out for if you're interested. I'll always look for some of those new remastered versions of old comics at some point in the future. I'm sure you'll see plenty more of those as time passes. But that's all part of growing as an artist. So there is Olivia looking very angry, so that's perfect. And again, that you can see the shout lines here in the outline, but we'll do that in the text later. We don't need to just draw that in with a pen. We want it to have be clean, purposeful looking text. So we will do that later. Then finally, oh, made that feather just a little too big. There we go. Go ahead and draw Olivia actually holding a Switch device and playing, even though she knows she's not supposed to. But when has that ever stopped her before? If you've ever watched a live stream before or heard me talk about our animals here or on YouTube, uh, then you know that Olivia just kind of lives by her own rules. She just does whatever she feels like. One thing that's really funny, she is the type of bird uh, that can learn words and phrases. She speaks a lot actually. She's very talkative. And one thing that uh, relatively recently she started doing is using the word "hey" when when you're bugging her or if she's upset by something. And she picked that up from us because if she's being a little fussy or getting into something that she shouldn't, we'll just give her a little boop on her beak and we'll tell her hey. And so she has learned the context of what that word means. So now, like if one of the dogs is like bugging her, or if we're not paying attention to her as much as she wants, or she's just causing a ruckus, and she'll just look you right in the eye and she'll just, hey, hey. So she's started using that phrase now, which is both, it's really funny, but it's also just like, oh my gosh, like really? You're gonna start just throwing that back in our face? Really? It's hilarious, but it's also just plain ridiculous. But that's all part of the fun of having having a pet who talks. You just have to be prepared for lots of sass in your life. That's just the reality. She is Looking over the top of the Switch while she's playing. Draw a little line in the background for the edge of the table. And again, all the text, we'll do that later. But I think overall, that looks pretty good. Before I merge all of this, turn the preview layer off, look everything over. You can see that line didn't connect. That would be a problem later, because then when I try to fill in the color, it just fill in the whole background. Double check, make sure all of our lines are closed. Make sure everything is the right shape that it should be. And yeah, looks good. Okay. So I think we can go ahead. Now, normally what I would do here is, I would just take all the outlining and merge it all together into one layer, make it a reference layer, and then start coloring in. But again, I mentioned I want to give this Pokeball in the first panel kind of a spinning effect. So I'm actually going to merge everything else separate from that, for now anyway. I'm going to work on that first, and you'll see why in just a second. I actually am going to fill in that space with white and not just leave it blank and color over it. Making sure it actually filled in. That'd be important. There is a reason for what I'm doing. And that's because what I want to do here, and I don't know if this is going to work exactly the way I'm imagining it, but we're going to give it a try. Turn that. Turn. Okay, that's not. Okay, yeah, not quite what I was picturing, but that's okay. Oh, also it would help if I filled that in. That is also technically colored. Go ahead and actually just reduce the opacity of these layers. Just all of them together. Okay, That overlays a little bit better. You know what? As I say this, I think I realized, I think I've had an idea again. I have an idea what I'm gonna do. See, trial and error. That's all part of the fun. Don't worry about everything being perfect the first time, because it won't be. That's just a fact. I'm gonna go ahead and actually keep the opacity lowered and draw this as if the Pokeball is being thrown. Draw a little bit smaller. Then we can just add in action lines. If I can actually get those correct. There we go. Now we'll go back to the original baseline Pokeball there. Lighten up that red a little bit. That's actually, I'm going to make that a little bit of a wider stripe. Yeah, I think just on the red, that should be fine. Okay, there we go. I will do a little bit of shading just around the little button part here in the front. Not a ton, just a little. There we go. And now we can make this reference layer and start coloring in everything else. We'll go ahead and start with Olivia here. That pen down a little bit. Do her distinctive blue outlining around her eye there. Actually, I just noticed this little black dot that shouldn't be there. So there we go. I'll go ahead and give her her little blush in her cheeks. Add some yellow into her wings and her tail. And for that, I'm actually going to do a little bit more than what I normally would, just to make it a little distinctive and maybe a little bit more cartoony looking. And then for her crest feather, I'm actually going to go ahead and fill that in a solid color. And I just realized, again, this is all part of making mistakes. I accidentally colored in her cheeks and her feathers on the wrong layer, and that would have been very difficult to correct later. So glad we caught that now while we could still fix that. So there we go. That's better. Just triple checking that it's actually the right the right drawing layer this time. That would be very difficult to fix later on. But as I was saying, for her crest feather up here on her head, I'm going to fill that in with a solid pink color, which is not how it looks in real life. It does have a little bit of a pink blush to it. But again, I'm trying to make her a little bit more stylized than I normally do, just because of the kind of context of what I'm drawing. I'll go ahead and do the same thing down here. Go ahead and give her what I like to refer to as her eyeshadow, her all natural blue eyeshadow. Which is not a joke. She actually does have a natural blue shading around her eye. And her eyelid. Then we'll just get her cheek blush and her feathers again. Just triple checking again that we're still on the right drawing layer. Again, don't want to make that mistake again. And that should be everything there. So now I can go ahead and get her beak colored. Now this I'm actually going to do just the same as I normally would in any other comic. Just because that doesn't need to be changed all that much, I don't think. Go ahead and start with that dark gray base. Add in a large band of lighter gray. And this kind of, I don't know, I guess sandy color, I guess you could, I don't even know what you would call that color. Kind of a grayish tan, I guess. Go ahead and just blur that all together to make Olivia's beak. Then up here, I'm actually going to drop some color into her foot, which is something that in the regular comic series you don't really usually see happen. Her usually just little black sticks, just like kind of like bird stick figure feet. But again, I wanted to make this look a little bit more like Pokemon as much as I could. So where you can see her feet there, I didn't wanted to give them some color. Let's see. And then actually here in the last panel, she does need her eye shadowing again. Okay, so there's that. And that looks pretty good for the most part. So now I think we can go ahead, start getting everything else filled in. Put all this in the background, because that is going to go behind everything else. Oh, that looks good. Let's see, probably shouldn't do the same color for all of the backgrounds. I want to change it up a little bit, but keep it some variations of blue. Uh-oh, let's see, there is a line that is not fully closed off somewhere. Aha, there's the culprit. Ah, much better. Mistakes happen. What's important is that I catch them early enough to fix them while I still can. That takes care of the background, I think. Okay. Let's see. Get a nice green color for her HP bar up here. Oh, that looks nice. That needs lightened up a little bit. Maybe not quite that yellow. There. put those in for her attack stats. That's looking pretty good so far. And the last thing to do is we'll just go ahead and color in the actual Nintendo Switch that she is holding in her hands there. And you'll notice so far, this one doesn't have a whole lot of shading to it yet. Um, I say yet, that's because so much of it is just Olivia. Oh, I could drop this into the right spot. But that's just because so much of this is just close-ups of Olivia. And so all of her shading is going to be that white gray color around her white feathers. And what I normally do for that is I will make that a layer behind everything else since I'm not actually filling in Olivia's body with white coloring with white ink. Um, so that will be a separate layer in the back in the background behind everything else, so that I can go ahead and just get all that colored in later. So I will do that once everything else is finished. But you can see I do have this layer here with a little bit of a wing on the back of the Switch. So we can go ahead and do some shading there. Make sure that's locked. There's that. Put it right there. That's a little too blue. I think we want that to be. Okay, that looks better. Actually, I'm going to put that color on the back. There we go. I like that better. Go ahead, do some little bit of shading on the Switch console. Wherever her little feathers are holding on to it. Now let's go ahead and get the other side. Should we do that in a separate layer? Oh, that filled in way too much. There we go. Sometimes it takes a few tries. And I think the final bit of coloring, at least until I do the shading on her feathers, put it behind everything else, is going to be her sitting on the table there. Do our texturing for the table. shade that about where she's sitting. And perfect. So yeah, now the last thing we have to do is just do some shading around Olivia's feathers. I think we should be almost finished. We'll just have to put in all of our text then, and this should be just about done. Yeah, that looks good already. Amazing with just that little extra bit of color around the lines can do. There we go. That looks good. So yeah, I think the last thing left to do then is just to go ahead and add in our text for everything. Start here. No, I don't want emojis. I just want an exclamation point. Let's see. Now for this, I'm going to want a different font than what I normally use. Because again, that's a little too cartoony. It's fine when I'm doing just regular speaking text, but I do want this to be a little bit more stylized. Oh, I think that might work out pretty well. Oh, there we go. I like that. That one turned out well. Help if I could actually type. I need caps. Okay, perfect. So now add a few more things here. Add in some text for your different attack options. And by a happy coincidence, they all happen to be four-letter words, so it's pretty easy to keep these all lined up relatively evenly. That works out well. And I'm actually going to go ahead back. Just make that stand out a little bit more. There we go. I like that. That looks better. Oh, also, while I'm in here, I guess I should probably add in her scream lines. There we go. Just, one of those things that, hey, while I'm thinking about it, I should probably do that. Now, for the final panel, I can go back to my usual text fonts. Oh, and I also just remembered I do need to add, oh, I need to add in her little name and stats up there. So I will do that in just a second here, right after I do one more thing. Add in some sound effects there. Those lines are too large. There we go. Okay. So now I can go ahead add in all of those stats up here. Let's find, there we go. I'm going to make that white text just to stand out a little bit more against the background. I just realized that is not white, that is gray. There we go. Okay. Very happy with how that looks. Now comes the final part. Draw in our little text bubbles here. And this week I only needed a couple of them because most of it was in the video game little text module bubbles that I had, so I only need a couple of these. Then just one for Olivia down here. And we can go ahead and fill those in. Gotta make sure we select white and not gray. I'd help if I turned on the right tool for that. And also if I colored that in on the right layer. There we go. That looks better. Next, just one final little detail that I'm going to add in. Perfect. Okay. But yeah, with that, I think that looks just about finished. So hey, just want to say thank you to everyone who was able to join me here on Twitch for the live stream to watch this new comic coming to life. Also, thank you to anyone who might be catching this on YouTube later. Thanks for coming by and watching. If you want to read this new comic, as well as checking out all the other comics in the Floof and Feathers series, you can head to my main website, which is quite simply floofandfeatherscomic.com. I have links to that both here in my Twitch profile and in the description below if you're catching this on YouTube later. So you can head to the main website for all of that. If you want to help support Floof and Feathers even further, I do have a Patreon page. And in addition to just being able to help support the efforts of this comic strip, you'll also get access to a ton of great exclusive bonus content and rewards. You'll get to see comic previews each week before this kind of finished version is released. So you'll get a sneak preview of what's coming during the week. You'll also get access to exclusive Floof and Feathers wallpapers that are available both in desktop and mobile formats, as well as exclusive sticker packs of the month, help participate in reader polls, and you can also select a physical print of a comic from the past month to be sent to you. So there's lots of great rewards and bonus content you can get access to if you want to sign up and help support the series. You can check out that, catch me on social media, read the main webcomic series on my website. Again, I have links to all of that both here in my Twitch channel and in the description if you're catching this on YouTube later. But other than that, I just want to say thank you again to everyone for joining me, watching, and for reading and enjoying the comic series. And I will see everyone next time. Bye.